Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. What I do is I use a combination of the two modalities to work with people that are struggling with anxiety, stress and all the behaviours that come with that. Some of the behaviours being poor sleep, emotional eating, which shows up with most of my clients in some shape or form. Explosive anger, going from 0 to 10 within seconds and not understanding why they lost control so quickly. Having poor boundaries, not asking for what you needed, frustration, overwhelm. All of these drive the stress response in our system. So one of the things that I will definitely be diving into and talking about a lot is what the stress response is in our physical body, what situations trigger stress, looking at different events and situations that trigger stress in your life will help you to start eliminating it. But what's absolutely key is understanding what's driving the stress in your life in the first place, what it is that you're reacting and responding to, because understanding gives you the power to change it. And bearing in mind that this comes from within, not the situations that are around us. It's our own thinking that's causing us to react the way we do. So one of the things that I want to first have a chat to you about is what the stress response is in our system. So stress is a physical response driven by our own fearful thoughts. When our brain perceives a threat, stress hormones, cortisol, floods our system. Our amygdala, which is a part of our brain, is activated and that triggers the fight or flight response in our brain. This then signals our body to do a number of things. Some of them being your body is pumped with adrenaline, so you'll feel a little bit hyped up, your energy will feel higher, your brain feels foggy, your blood pressure is raised because it's preparing your body to fight or flee. Our critical thinking, our rational conscious thinking is impaired because it's not required during fight or flight. So you're not thinking rationally, you're thinking from an emotional space. So rather than you stopping and thinking that this is a small minor thing that's standing in your way, you're coming from all emotion. So you'd see this show up very much when you see road rage. When your fear response is triggered, when someone pulls out in front of you in a car and your fear is triggered, you get a fright and you explode with absolute emotion and you're thinking things and saying things in your head or reacting a way you'd never normally react. That's because you're coming from an emotional space rather than a rational space. Another thing that happens is our digestive system goes offline. It's not required during the fight or flight response, so it goes offline. This is why, folks, when we're regularly stressed, this can really impair any weight loss that you want, and it aids weight gain because your digestive system is not functioning the way it normally functions. So as I say, regular stress really impacts people who want to lose weight or even maintain weight. Another way that it impacts your weight is cortisol, the stress hormone that your brain has released. It increases your appetite. It's telling your body to replenish its energy with energy-dense foods. And our energy-dense foods tend to be carbs. And these cause you to crave comfort foods. So other ways, and focusing again, guys, on the eating because it shows up a lot with my clients, other ways that stress impacts our eating is when our critical rational thinking is knocked off, we're not actually focusing on what we're eating. We're not paying attention. We're possibly in a stress state, we're multitasking, trying to do a few things at once rather than focusing. Another thing, as I mentioned earlier, we're choosing foods from an emotional space rather than a place of reason. So any healthy eating, any planning is gone out the window, and we're making choices through emotion. We're looking for foods that will make us feel good. We're chasing good emotions because we're in a negative space. We're also, when we're stressed, we tend to be hammering ourselves, giving out about all the things that we're not doing, we're not keeping up with. The to-do list that can sometimes be absolutely relentless. So again, to move us out of those negative feelings, we're seeking those comfort foods. We're looking to food to make us feel better about how we're feeling. And planning goes out the window. All the things that you're planning or you want to plan to eat, you're actually, again, coming from an emotional space rather than a rational space. So you're thinking for the now rather than the actual goals you want. We're not making ourselves a priority. We're not doing the planning. We're just trying to get through the to-do list. All of that with an increased appetite, increased energy release, and this in turn then can cause fatigue in our system, and especially with regular stress, our system can get fatigued from constantly functioning at a level where our energy, our adrenaline is higher, our blood pressure is higher, and when we're fatigued, again, this absolutely impacts the food choices we're making. And this in turn can get us trapped in a cycle of negative behaviours. So stress can hugely impact the choices that we're making and the behaviours that we're choosing. So working on our stress levels can really, really be helpful in many different aspects of our life, be it down to us wanting to lose weight, us wanting to feel happier. And as we know, guys, stress over time can have an immensely negative impact on our health overall. Constantly functioning with a blood pressure that's raised, with adrenaline flushing through our system, with a digestive system offline, over time creates serious health issues going forward, like irritable bowel, hernias, high cholesterol, and then poor food choices also have a huge impact over time on our weight and the pressure that's put on our body. So looking at where the stress response actually comes from in our system. So the first step, folks, in managing your stress response is building awareness around what situations, events or triggers or people trigger the stress response. Looking at your own life and seeing where is your stress actually showing up? What situation are you in, or event, or what people are you around? Are you in work? Are you at home? Whereabouts are you when your stress response is triggered? So building awareness around these things shows you where the stress response is coming up in your system. And then it's looking at what's going on with you. When you can feel yourself getting stressed, what are you thinking? Are you worried about being late? Are you rushing around? Are you trying to multitask and do 10 things at once? What are you saying to yourself? Are you hammering yourself? Are you giving out to yourself, telling yourself you shoulda, woulda, coulda? And what are you feeling? Because what you're feeling, because of how you're talking to yourself and what you're thinking, again, this is all playing into your own responses. Are you playing a fear story in your head? Are you thinking about a situation in the future and creating a negative outcome? Are you picturing yourself walking into a room this evening where you have to walk in front of people and you're worrying, you feel like they're going to judge you, you're not going to connect, you're not going to know what to say? What is the fear story that you're creating in your head? Because it is just that. It's a story that you're playing. Are you overthinking? Are you worrying about the next 50 steps, overwhelming yourself, thinking of the next 50 to 100 steps rather than thinking of just the one step you have to take? Finding out what first is triggering your stress response is the first step in learning how to manage it and how to positively impact all the behaviours that the stress in your life is probably impacting, like emotional eating. And this one, guys, for us all, it's understanding our own subconscious mind and the powerful role it plays in our thinking, our habits, and how we interact day to day and who we are. Your subconscious mind is responsible for up to 80% of your mental activity. It's where all your experiences, beliefs, behaviours and emotions lie. Most of our day-to-day behaviours are driven by our subconscious beliefs. And most of these beliefs were created between the ages of 0 to 6 years old, when our brain was predominantly in the alpha delta wavelength. That's why they say children are like sponges, because children are absorbing absolutely everything that's going on around them. They're mimicking, they're role playing, and they're developing an understanding of who they are in the world, who they've to be and how they've to behave. And this is where our beliefs come from. And these beliefs drive all the behaviours that we then go on to live our lives through. And regardless of how negative, limiting or defeating our beliefs are, our subconscious strives to make them a reality once they're in there. And this all happens beneath our conscious awareness. So for all of us, understanding what your negative beliefs are is your first step to change. Negative beliefs can trigger both your stress response and a negative relationship with food, sleep, alcohol. All of these behaviours tie in with what our negative beliefs are and the behaviours that they actually drive. So what we'll do is take a little snapshot look at emotional eating, which is certainly triggered by the stress response. And emotional eating is any time you are eating that is not because you're hungry. And as we mentioned, guys, you overeat and make poor food choices because you're stressed. You then feel guilty or ashamed and you're telling yourself. And these are some of the beliefs and things we tell ourselves. I am not normal. I have no willpower. I have no self-control. I am a failure. And you then want to escape these negative beliefs, these negative emotions. So you turn to food for comfort, re-triggering the same cycle all over again. All the while, this is chipping away at your confidence and your self-belief, which negatively impacts your entire life, because you're feeling low in yourself, you're feeling out of control, you feel like you've no willpower, and this is driving you back into the stress cycle and into those negative behaviours that you potentially want to move away from, like those 4 food choices, like all that emotional eating that shows up that we do when we're bored, we do it when we're upset, we do it when we're sad, we do it when we're stressed. All of these behaviours are triggered by your negative beliefs. So some of the ways we can look at managing our stress response, which in turn manages the behaviours that triggers. And these are short tips, guys, that you can use in the moment and a bit of an understanding as to why they're good tools to use. So first off, drinking a glass of water. It's very, very simple, but what it actually does is it dilutes cortisol in your system. So it's actively diluting the stress hormone while bringing your system back down. Another very, very helpful in the moment tip that you can use is breathing in and out 10 long deep breaths. And we hear this so many times, and sometimes once we don't have an understanding of something, we're not as willing to try it. And what this actually does is it switches your nervous system response from sympathetic, which is your fight and flight, your adrenaline up high, your blood pressure, to a parasympathetic response, which is your rest and digest, your relaxation, your system is calming down. So breathing in 10 long deep breaths really has a powerful response on your nervous system, calming you down from the inside out. Another very handy tip for in the moment is your brain has prepared your system because of the fearful thoughts you're thinking. So you can start to deactivate your own system by changing your thoughts to positive thoughts and remembering that these thoughts are just that. They're only thoughts that you've created, and chances are you're actually thinking of a situation in the future. You're thinking of being late, you're thinking of not fitting in, not connecting, a presentation you've to give, and you're creating a negative outcome. You're running a story. They are just thoughts. Changing your thoughts to positive thoughts and thinking of a positive outcome. This brings your system into a more positive, relaxed space. Building up a success bank. I absolutely love this. We have had so much success in our life from birth that we forget about. As babies, we learned to walk, to talk. How many times does a baby fall down and get back up and doesn't just decide they failed and sit on the floor and actually never walk? We would have babies throughout the world just sitting. We get back up, we try again. That's our motivation, that's our resilience. We learn to read, we learn to write, we learn to count, we learn to drive a car, we learn to be in relationships, we learn to communicate. You have probably passed so many exams in your lifetime. So building up, thinking back of all the successes you've had in your life. Having a mental list or a written list of all the successes you've had, big and small, that have got you to where you are today, and having that success bank to pull out whenever you feel yourself getting stressed or having those fearful thoughts, again, enables you to shift your focus into a positive space. They are just thoughts and they're yours to change at any time. Another very, very powerful one that you can build in is having a success or empowering playlist. Music is a very, very powerful trigger for our emotions. We've all had them times when we're sitting in our room or we're driving along and we're just relaxing, chilling, and all of a sudden a particular song comes on and you can actually feel that well of emotion in your system. It has triggered a memory with emotion attached to it, from your first love, the first breakup with a boyfriend, maybe a funeral song, maybe a time in and around when you were leaving school. Whatever it has triggered, music is a powerful trigger for our emotions. So making this work for us, having the songs, thinking back to the songs that you love listening to that really get you going. So looking at your own lives, folks, and what your songs are. What songs, the last time it came on, you felt really confident, you felt loved, if you felt empowered. Looking at your own life and what your songs are and building them into an empowering playlist. If it's a thing you want to feel calm, you want to feel peaceful, what are the songs that bring back those peaceful feelings, those calm feelings, that sense of belonging, and building those up? And even if it means having 3 or 4 playlists that empower you in different ways for different situations, building them in and having them for the car, on your phone, anywhere you go and in any situation, because as I've mentioned, they have a powerful effect on shifting your emotions to what state you want to be in, and you absolutely have that power. So looking at these things, guys, is hugely helpful in diminishing your own stress levels and eliminating your stress when you need to dial it down and bring down those stress levels. And always bearing in mind, you have the power. Your mind is not an entity that runs by itself, that's out of your control. In every moment, in every day, you have a choice as to who you want to be, who you want to show up as. Before you have that split-second reaction or response, you have a choice. Our reactions and responses are learned behaviours, they're habits and patterns that are built in. So building awareness around what yours are, what situations create them, and then how you can change them, and having your other tools in the bag, your drinking the water, your empowering playlist, your success list banked. All it is helping you shift in your mindset. You choose if you want to stay in line with your goals. You choose how you show up every day. The choices are yours. You absolutely, and this is very, very important, you choose how you want to treat yourself, how you speak to yourself. So building awareness around how you're speaking to yourself, this hugely impacts your stress levels massively, and it impacts your emotional state. And bearing in mind, guys, in every relationship that you'll be in your life, you are the one relationship that you're in from birth till death. So you're the one voice you cannot and will not escape. If you're in a room with someone that's speaking to you badly, treating you badly, you have the option to walk away. When it's yourself that's speaking to you badly and treating you badly, you can't leave. And you respond by different behaviours, by emotional eating, by stress, by punishing yourself. So changing the relationship with yourself, working on your relationship with yourself is powerful to create any changes that you want in your life. So choosing whether you prioritise yourself and when you prioritise yourself is powerful. You have a choice every single day to change, to step up for you, to choose you. And remembering, you only get this one life to live. You have this mind to live it with. So getting your mind working for you and treating you the way you want to be treated, again, will give you a much better quality of life, more happiness, more calmness, and better health overall. Because as I've mentioned, stress has a hugely negative impact on your system over time, and obviously, guys, on your mind. So remembering to choose you and choose to change, make those changes for you, starting to build on your relationship with you, starting to treat yourself the way you want to be treated, and looking at where and when the stress response is showing up in your life will absolutely have a huge impact on you being able to create the changes that you want. So just remembering, guys, that change is an active choice. Change isn't some giant leap or some profound bolt of lightning that hits us in the head. Change shows up in changing small things each and every day. By changing how you're speaking to yourself, by creating that awareness around how you're speaking to yourself, looking at these things in your life, these create true, powerful, positive change. It's in the small steps, the little habits that show up in your day. This is where you see true, lasting change. And just as a final tip for you guys for this week's podcast, we all feel like motivation is, it's a bus that comes by and, we hop on and, we're on our way to Motivation City. That is not the way it works. We can be sitting on our sofas the rest of our lives waiting on motivation to come. It doesn't come and knocking on your door. Motivation comes in taking action. That one step, that one choice. Every positive choice you make drives your motivation. And think of it very simply, and we'll take food. When you walk over and you open your fridge door and your plan is to eat healthy, and you've a punnet of strawberries there and you've a bar of chocolate. If you choose those strawberries and you walk away with them, you've made a choice, a good choice driving you towards your goals, which creates positive feelings within your system. Your brain is driven towards reward and away from pain. So if it's feeling those positive rewarding feelings from that good choice, it is triggered to re-seek those good feelings. So therefore that drives your motivation that your next choice is positive and your next choice is positive. So it's these little tiny decisions that show up in these little small choices every day, and taking these tiny actions that drive our motivation and power us forward. So looking at just the small choices in your day and choosing choices for you for what you want is absolutely powerful in driving your motivation to make those bigger changes down the line. Thanks for tuning in, folks, to this week's episode of Happiness is an Inside Job. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week, same time, same place for the next episode.